Ladies and gentlemen, y'all have probably noticed I make a lot of tutorials on mechanics. How many now, Stancher? Yeah, a lot. But there's still so many mechanics I haven't covered, so until I get to those, I want to share the process I use whenever I want to pick up a new mechanic. It's a nice incremental process that I've perfected over 3,000 hours in the game to break down any daunting mechanic into easy sections. I believe it is the best way to learn any mechanic, and I'm a random guy on the internet, so you can trust me. Plus, it's free, so let's hop into it. Step number 1. Examine. Before you attempt to learn any mechanic, you should have a decent understanding of how and why it's performed. I know, it's kind of a boring first step, but trust the process. A lot of players just see a mechanic that looks cool and then they hop into free play, try to copy it, and fail miserably. So when I say examine, I mean watch the mechanic being performed by someone who has mastered it. Someone like your boy, Twitch link in the bio. Or you could watch Squishy, a professional who has about 3 times the skill and hours I do. I know, it's a difficult choice. Anyway, I want you to really focus and look for the small details. Watch the mechanic over and over, maybe even in slow motion. Are they braking? At what point do they boost? How much space do they have? What is the defense doing? Etc. Really let the mechanic sink into your bones. As an example, if you watch my flip reset tutorial, you would see the keys to success lie in grabbing the reset from slightly behind the ball, not under it, that the defense is slightly unprepared, and that you have to get distance between you and the ball. These are small details a lot of players might miss, but they are crucial to successfully performing a flip reset, and without knowing that first, you might develop some bad habits. Personally, I like to break down mechanics chronologically, thinking about the setup, then the execution, and finally the finish, and then see where I'm going wrong in that order. Essentially, in this step, you are understanding those specific details on how to perform the mechanic, as well as where and why the mechanic is successful. Try to discover those hidden pro tips I give you in my tutorials by yourself. This step should serve as a sort of mental template that you can reference to see where you're going wrong and where you should implement the mechanic into your game. It will only take 20 to 30 minutes watching the mechanic to get a rough idea, and you can always update your understanding later. Listen, I can't stress how helpful and critical it is that you understand the mechanic before you learn it. Also, this means making sure the mechanic is within your skill level. Like if you're plat, maybe a double reset musty flick is a little too advanced. That's all I'm saying. That's all. Step 2. Custom training. Now that you have a decent understanding of the mechanic, you need to drill into those greasy sausages you call fingers how to perform the mechanic. And gamers, custom training is the best place to grill. Find a training pack with the perfect setup for your mechanic and keep trying again and again. I've posted some solid training packs in the bio and what mechanics they're good for if you need the suggestions. While you are practicing, I want you to focus on the exact movements, because if you're anything like me, 1, you are incredibly handsome, of course, but more importantly, 2, you probably just mindlessly perform the mechanic over and over, and that actually doesn't help much. Especially when a mechanic is brand new, so focus on all the details, see exactly where you went wrong, and try to make that correction on the next attempt. Something to help you out with this is to perform the mechanic in slow motion at about 0.75 times the speed. Unfortunately, putting custom training in slow motion is only available through Bacchus mod on Steam, so the other platforms might have to set up a private match and use a mutator instead. The reason slow motion is so effective is because you have a lot of time to meticulously perform the mechanic and to set up a solid foundation. I know, meticulously, that's a big word for me, but just think of a musician playing at half tempo to learn a new piece. Anyway, all you are trying to do in this section is figure out how to perform the mechanic and then start to build some muscle memory. Don't overtrain though. You only need to train in 20 to 30 minute increments. Any more than that doesn't really show any improvement. Before moving on, you should be able to hit the shot anywhere from 25% to 40% of the time. I don't know, y'all. It ain't really an exact science. Just be able to perform the mechanic some of the time, and if you're consistent with this training, it should only take a week or 2. Step number 3. Free play. Now that you've had some success with that perfect setup, it's time to go into free play and set it up for yourself. This is a crucial step for 2 reasons. The first reason, variance. It is important that when you learn a mechanic, you don't just practice the same setup every time, because almost never will you find that perfect setup in game. You need to learn to adapt to different situations. Air dribbles in the lower ranks are the perfect example of this. Lower ranks always practice the same easy setup in the same training pack, and then are shocked when they fail in game. Free play is the perfect spot to experiment with some different looks. Also, I recommend trying with unlimited boost off to get that more game-like experience. The second reason, setups. A lot of players may be able to perform a certain mechanic, but if you can't set that mechanic up, then again, you are just praying that you get that perfect opportunity. I noticed this a lot when I personally learned breezy flicks. This was back when I was low diamond. I could perform the mechanic fairly well, but my dribbling was subpar, so I could never pull them off in game, and it was because I didn't have the ability to create space and time to set it up for myself. Similar to custom training, you can just tack on 20 to 30 minutes of free play training, and before you move on, you should be successful on 50 to 70% of your attempts. Step 4. Play. Yeah, it's pretty straightforward from this point on. The final step is the hardest because everything you've been practicing now needs to be performed with other players trying to stop you. Now, I might recommend some 1v1 or even some casual 1v1 because you can get a lot of space to perform the mechanic, but ultimately you just have to start going for it in game. And it's definitely going to be difficult at first and you'll probably mess up a lot. But if you waited until you were 100% with every mechanic, everybody would still be in gold. So take your chances. On top of this, you can just throw the mechanic into your game all the time. So if you're queuing up or warming up, you can now just casually iron out the mechanic in free play along with all your other mechanics. And at this point, it's just kind of a grind from 50% success in training to any success at all in game. You will probably recognize other little pro tips and update your understanding and mental template because in-game practice is so different and more difficult than training. But it's just how it goes. And trust me, nothing is more satisfying than finally pulling off a mechanic you've been training for a month. So, this is my process for learning new mechanics. And I know, it isn't as good as me giving tips for specific mechanics, but it is the formula I follow, so if it helped you out, I'm glad. And yeah, you don't need to follow this too rigidly, like if you get a chance in game, but you're only on step 2, by all means, try it out, go wild. So yeah, make sure to like and subscribe. Let me know what videos you want to see in the future down in the comments. If you want to hang out live, my Twitch is in the description as well as the rest of my socials. Oh, and I finally got a creator code, Sir Baby Bones, so use it. And yeah, enjoy the kitty. I'm out.